All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. I am looking over onto my other screen, hopefully to go live on Instagram. They don't make it easy. All right, here we go. All right, and we are live in all the places, everybody. Coming to you on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the places, right? And I'm so excited to have a special guest. So I'm going to do a quick intro. I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about first. How's that? So, again, if you're just joining us, I want to welcome you. And thanks for joining us live. This is going to be a great conversation. So, if you have ever questioned when to trust the GI map or how to really interpret those results from a clinical standpoint, or how this is a really good one, how to explain those results to your patients without completely overwhelming them, you are definitely in the right place today. So, I think this conversation is really going to be very helpful because today we are delving into how the GI map, which was developed by Diagnostics Solutions Laboratory, fits into real world clinical practice. And I'm really excited to introduce my guest today. And her name is Greer McGinnis, such a great name, a clinician who uses the GI map regularly herself in her own private practice and uses it quite often in your more complex cases too. So she's going to share a little bit about her utilization of this lab. And while Greer's clinical background includes pediatrics, so she has a pediatric practice, we're going to learn more about that. The principles we're going to discuss today apply much more broadly, I would say, to practitioners working with adults as well. Right. So we're going to talk about when the GI map is most useful, when maybe it's not the perfect test in terms of, patient types, how to interpret results responsibly, and how to connect findings to clear, confident next steps for your patient. So if you are watching live, consider this an open invitation to drop your questions in the chat, because we would really love to hear from you. So this is a great opportunity to get those questions answered. And also, just a reminder, if you're watching over on YouTube, give us a subscribe, if you will. I would be ever so grateful. All right, Greer, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so psyched to have you. This is such a great topic for my audience. So really looking forward to this conversation. Well, before we kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, of course. So I've actually been an RD for almost 20 years now, which I feel old when I say that. But yeah, I started off my career actually in geriatric. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. And after I had my children, and many people know that my oldest regressed into autism when he was about 18, 19 months. And going through that system and seeing all the specialists and not really getting any answers, I was very frustrated and just felt like nobody was really listening or taking my questions seriously, and I wasn't getting any answers. So I started diving into research, and especially in the autism world. And what I found was papers, like dozens and dozens of research papers and studies of the pediatric microbiome, and it just kept leading me down different rabbit holes until I, understood that, it makes sense of why I would go to the pediatrician, all of his labs were normal. And I was like, this can't be. The kid only eats 10 foods. He's severely constipated. Like how is his labs normal? It didn't make any sense to me. And I started understanding more functional medicine, and I'm very grateful for all the dietitians before me who were in integrative and functional medicine, helping us navigate that world. And I just took off running with it. So I left my career in long-term care and switched to the other end and went right to pediatrics and started researching and using my son and other patients and looking at labs, and started working for functional lab companies. And it just, everything started clicking and making sense for me.
So good. That is quite an incredible backstory. So thank you for sharing that with us. Really appreciate that. So in your private practice, so there's two prongs that I know of to the work that you do. You run your private practice and you're specializing in pediatrics, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then tell us a little bit about your role at the lab at Diagnostic Solutions.
Yeah, so I love working there. I'm a clinical lab educator, so we provide education to providers who are doing testing through us. So what will happen is a provider, especially if they're new or old, if they've been doing it for a while, after they run a test on their patient, they'll give us a call, they'll book an appointment with us, they'll give us a slight history of their patient, and we will start helping them put the puzzle pieces together of the markers that are abnormal on the test and how they can be related to their patients and their diagnoses, and really help that provider better understand and come to a better conclusion of how to best support and help their patients.
Okay. Wow. So my big takeaway from that is that Diagnostic Solutions really provides tons of support. So anyone watching this live, or if you're catching us on the replay, I think one of the big takeaways is don't be, cautious really about getting an account with this company, because they will provide you with support.
Yeah, everyone has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I tell my providers is start with yourself, start with your family to run the test on, and we have so much research and support systems. We have a whole academy dedicated to pre-done lectures where a new provider can consult with us, but then we have this whole entire database filled with hundreds of hours of lectures and interpretations of each section of the test. So we are rooted in science. We are trying to give our providers the best support that we possibly can so that they could be successful in their practice.
Okay. That's amazing. So lots of support. That's my big takeaway. So you're not left to interpret these results on your own, which would be especially critical if you're new. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit more. Tell me from your perspective, I guess more from a clinical standpoint, where do you feel like the GI map really fits into this integrative functional, what we call the root cause approach?
Yeah. So, we know that the gut, I call the gut the engine to the car. If the engine of the car is not working, the rest of the system isn't going to work. None of the organs are going to work correctly. The brain's not going to work correctly. And we know that 70% of the immune system is in the gut. If the gut is imbalanced, there is no balance in the system. So for me, anytime, and we have to look at this from a perspective that typically people they are unhealthy coming to us. They're coming to us because there's something going on. They have a chronic health condition. They're sick. They're trying to get their body back in shape. For all, healthy people aren't coming to work with us a lot of the times. So, we have to start somewhere. And with that, we have to go, okay, what's going on inside your body and how do we start the rebalancing system? Because they're going to come to us and they're going to be nutrient deficient. They're going to have toxic load. They're going to have all these issues. And it's like, okay, what does your gut look like? What's your diet look like? And what's your gut look like? And for me in my pediatric practice, I do a test on every single patient. Every time I walk through that door, I'm doing a test on, because I know that there's so many things that have happened over a certain amount of time, sicknesses and illnesses, antibiotics, medication, diet, all these things are going to affect that.
Okay. Oh, hang on one second.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, there you are. Okay, I lost sound just for a moment.
No worries.
I don't know what happened. What did you just say?
I said if depending on how the history of a person or a child, a lot of the things that influence, we know this for a fact now, that like even in infancy, I've worked with older adults that said, oh, my mom told me I was always constipated or always had gut issues as a child. And then when we start asking those questions about their upbringing, their diet, things, we could start making these connections to things that might be happening later in life. Antibiotics, medication, diet, all of these things impact. Even just one round of antibiotics can disrupt the microbiome completely for a patient. So we have to look at everything as a whole, and the gut is a starting point to me through and through.
Okay. So I love what you said about, the immune system. I think at this point, practitioners are aware that the majority of your immune system resides in the gut. Maybe not so much with the public, but I think that message is starting to catch on as well, right?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to get out there. It's important.
It really is. So, and do you find in your work with parents that they have much more awareness around that?
No, unfortunately, I've worked with a lot of families, unfortunately, who will tell me, oh, my doctor kept recommending antibiotics for chronic ear infections, or my kid was sick, so they just gave us an antibiotic. The pediatricians are not explaining that the first 3 years of life is critical for gut and brain development. And I was the same way. I did not know my son had several rounds of antibiotics between the ages of 1 and 2 and completely destroyed his microbiome. And that was never explained to me. I was always told, like, antibiotics are fine. They're just going to go after the bad guys. They're not going to go after the good guys. It's fine. And that is not the case. And we're not well educated on that.
Okay. So kind of an off question, but what are some other things, if you don't mind commenting, since you work with kiddos? Obviously breastfeeding is huge. What are some other things that you consider to be really critical for little kids?
Yeah, there's actually 7 main concepts that impact the microbiome development in the first couple months of life. First is vaginal birth versus a C-section.
Okay. And why is that?
Yeah. So when a baby is born and they go through the vaginal canal, they're right near where a lot of proteobacteria is. And that actually helps to start training the immune system response.
Yeah.
So when you have a C-section, they actually bypass that completely. And we have research to show that kiddos, who are born by a C-section have lower bifidobacterium. They have usually immune system dysregulation because they don't get that training early on. So that's one of the big first steps. The second step is breast milk versus formula feeding. Just because of HMOs, we can't replicate that in formulas. And then it's initiating food. Starting too soon, before 6 months, has been known to lead to chronic health conditions later on in life.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So that's kind of new to me since I've had my kids. So the recommendation now is 6 months or later.
6 months or later, correct. Yeah. Many providers are still recommending kids start as early as 3 to 4 months, even giving rice cereal or oatmeal to because and that kids don't develop certain digestive enzymes, including those enzymes to break down carbohydrates early on. So doing that too soon actually usually causes them a lot of upset belly and gas and constipation, and it really can disrupt the microbiome.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Are you seeing, and this is just another sidebar, my curiosity at work here, you mentioned C-section babies. And are you seeing like the vaginal swabbing being done?
No, but I do try to encourage and educate my families who will ask me, they have a child on the spectrum and they say they want to try to do things a little bit differently moving forward. Like what could, how could we, parents change? And I did the exact same thing with my second. I did things completely different than I did with my first, just because I wanted to put my mind at ease that I had done everything in my control and my power. And I do try to encourage families or, on other platforms that I've been on to, if you do have to have a C-section, which happens, and we are not discrediting C-section.
Yeah, I am too.
sometimes we do not have a choice, but use that you can put a glove on and swab the vaginal canal and then wipe it all over baby. And that gives baby that initial step. And I know that sounds so crazy and bizarre and simple, and it really is that simple.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I've read about that. And I was just so curious to see if that was actually happening in the real world. But it sounds like if you're a mom, you got to ask for it.
Yeah. I mean, I've even, partners have helped the parent, the moms can do it too. It really makes the world of a difference for that child.
So interesting. And you said rub it all over the child?
Rub it all over their face, everything.
Okay. Mouth?
Yeah, because that's where they're going to start getting a lot of bacteria. So when they go through the vaginal canal, their face gets like covered in it. And
yeah.
It goes through the nose, it goes through the mouth, it goes through everything. So again, I know that sounds gross, but that's how nature works. That's how we're born. So
it's all done for a reason, right?
Yeah,
it's like this perfect, beautiful system.
It is. It's when you break it down and look at all the individual complexities of how a microbiome is formed from utero to being sunny side up in this world, it's actually pretty incredible to see how everything starts to play into that child.
Yeah. It's so cool. I love it. Well, thanks for that. Okay. So now let's go back to the GI map. So the question is, what types of patient presentations or symptoms might prompt you to reach out or reach for a GI map first? Now, you have already said that you run it on everybody in your practice, right? So, and this is peds. Is your practice mainly comprised of kiddos on the spectrum?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense.
So, I mean, and I work with kiddos who have eczema or have severe constipation and things like that as well. And that's just, a subgroup of who I work with. And with pediatrics, I mean, we have to run those tests because if their gut doesn't shape into the right direction, it really does affect them later in life.
Okay.
When adults come to us, I would always run a stool test on a patient, regardless if they're coming to me, because obviously if they're not feeling well or they're sick, we need to have a good starting point to move forward. But, somebody, had said to me, well, this person did a test, but they said they have no GI symptoms. And I wanted to explain that this is an important piece because we are very well-oiled machines. We put food in, things have to come out. So we poop every day, most of the time, or every other day for most people, too. So just because we poop every day or we don't feel like there's something wrong with our gut doesn't mean that there isn't anything wrong with the microbiome. It's when patients come to us and they're like, I have this horrible heartburn or indigestion, or I'm having loose stools or really bad constipation or gas and bloating. We know that as practitioners to go, okay, something is wrong on the inside and those symptoms have now come out. But the goal also is to try to prevent those symptoms from happening moving forward. And so even if your patient doesn't have GI issues or symptoms, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a straw that breaks that camel's back, unfortunately, and sets things off in a spiral motion. And that's typically what happens in most people with chronic health conditions.
Okay, interesting. So can you give us maybe a list or some idea in terms of what those chronic health situations are that would prompt a practitioner to say, you know what, we need to really take a closer look here?
So I've seen a lot with COVID and even in myself, unfortunately, through the years of COVID, of people getting COVID and what it's done to the microbiome, even including my own health. When I was a long haul COVID person who got very sick.
Sorry.
Thanks. But I gained a ton of weight afterward. And when I did my stool test, it was horrific. I mean, it really attacked my microbiome. So even something as silly or, simple as COVID or the flu can completely disrupt the microbiome in that particular person, because maybe they have underlying health conditions that we're not aware of. They could have underlying infections and inflammation. And so what we're trying to do is take a look at that patient who might have diabetes or, excessive, what I've heard a lot lately is women who are having insulin resistance, can't lose weight, perimenopause, and all these things. And we do a GI map and we just see all this dysbiosis and imbalance in the microbiome. And then once we are able to kind of fix that, things start to improve, their health, their insulin resistance starts to, decrease, their weight starts to come off. So we get to see all these different variations of things, but it can be something little like the COVID, the flu, or, even just eating something and getting food poisoning, that can start a trickle down effect through your health.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, I mean, so many things go back to the gut. Certainly immune function, right? Like,
yeah. Well, the first 2 years of your life is when your immune system is developing when you're a baby. And all of that stems back from C-section versus vaginal birth, formula versus breastfeeding, and things like that. And if we look a lot at what the development is in the first 2 years of life, this is where after the age of 3, the gut microbiome is supposed to look like an adult microbiome. That's why kids grow out of allergies or they grow out of their eczema when they're about 3 to 4 years old. But then when you ask those adults questions about how they were when they were kids, you might get, oh yeah, I had really bad eczema for years. I was always sick as a kid, so things start to kind of play a role when you start taking that good family history and looking back at their history, because a lot of times they'll have to go ask their mom or dad about when they were little, but it does help to put that clinical picture together, especially later on in life.
Okay. Fascinating. Yeah, and I didn't know that about the microbiome. Did you say it's pretty well developed? I think I heard you say 2 years. Did I hear that?
Around 3 to 4. Between about 3 years old, they should have an adult microbiome. Between 2 and 3, it starts to really develop towards an adult microbiome.
Okay.
So that's why, especially for my ped patients, I have to test them to see and make sure their gut actually developed the way that it was supposed to.
Okay. This is fascinating. Okay. So I'm learning so much, Greer. Thank you. So I think we talked about how you use the GI map, in terms of like what prompts you to reach for it symptom wise. Can you talk a little bit about how you use the data obtained from the GI map test to help you to prioritize treatment? And I would just say, especially in these more complex cases where there's maybe multiple issues happening at one time, which, let's be honest, is usually the case, right? Rarely is it just one thing.
It's never just one thing. Sometimes we do get lucky, but what I try to explain to providers is sometimes, especially when you get a test back and you just see like a lot of things wrong, we have to take a step back and prioritize. And we have to look at the big picture. We're not going to tackle every little single piece and every red marker that's on that test or every overgrowth or anything like that. And what I do is I say, okay, let's break it down where we need to start from the mouth to the gut, to the small intestines, to the large intestine. So let's go into like a flow pattern.
Okay.
So if certain things are off, like Fusobacterium, which is mouth bacteria. So if we start to see Fuso is really elevated, well, we need to take care of that because mouth bacteria then is going to play a big role in everything trickling down because you're just going to swallow bacteria and then it's going to set up the system. So we want to go in a chronological order. I can't fix anything in the large intestines if I don't fix anything in the stomach. Say you have H. pylori. Well, I'm not going to be able to fix that overgrowth of methane in your gut if I don't fix that H. pylori in the large intestines, if I don't fix H. pylori in the gut.
Okay.
So we have to kind of break it down and go in a chronological order. And that's how my brain works. That's how I was able to create my flow patterns with working with kiddos, is because I was seeing so many providers do these like kill phases, like right away, like,
Okay.
and these kids would regress or have like really harsh die off. And then, and then if it worked, these symptoms came back or these issues came back in a few months. And it was like, why is this happening? So when I started kind of working backwards, because that's how my brain worked, it created this roadmap flow pattern that just went, okay, if we can correct things all the way down, the body has a natural response to heal and be well and balance itself out. So if we can push the body and the gut into the right direction, it will get its health back. It will take back over. So we'll help you with the test, kind of go, okay, if you have H. pylori, let's tackle that first. Because you could have candida and that's okay. We'll fix that. We'll get to that. But we got to hit the H. pylori first because it's higher up. It alters the pH of the gut and it then alters the pH to the rest of the system. So now you have all these overgrowth of hydrogen and all these other commensals that are overgrown. And I can't fix that and get rid of them permanently if I don't fix the one causing the problem.
I am like a deer in the headlight right now. I gotta say, it's so awesome. This is the first I've ever heard of this approach.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
don't follow the 5R to gut repair anymore because that wasn't giving me yielding results when and it was kind of the thought process is why kick a person when they're down? If I'm sick and I don't feel good and I have overgrowth, if you don't build me up first,
yeah,
I'm just gonna keep drowning and then I'm not gonna get better. So I build up a person first before trying to get rid of things. So I kind of changed the 5R gut approach and did it like my own way and that's where I think I've seen the most success with my patients and helping providers with that too.
That's so cool. All right, so you build them up. So we're really shifting that 5R protocol that's kind of become
a standard, unfortunately. Yeah.
Here, in so many ways. I'd love to hear from our audience. What are your thoughts on this? And yeah, be sure to ask your questions because we've got the expert right here with us. Okay, so your approach, we start at the tippy top of the GI system and we fix that microbiome and any overgrowth, but we do it systematically from the top to bottom.
Right.
Okay.
It helps because the body wants to work a specific way. We're all different in the fact that our DNA and our genetics and all that stuff is different, but the common denominator is our organ systems all function the exact same way. We're all supposed to have these specific overgrowth and bacteria. And, this is how our bodies function. And we know that if, like, say, for instance, you have 2 kidneys. If one of my kidneys doesn't work, it's not like I'm any different. I'm different than everybody else, but my kidney was supposed to work and didn't work the way that it was.
Right.
So it's the same thing with the microbiome. We can still treat it the same way for every single person because we know that the systematic approach is this is how it's supposed to work. And it's supposed it wants to do the same thing. So your body, your liver and kidneys are supposed to help you detox.
Yeah.
They will. But if they have the right gut, the right nutrition, and the right support, if they don't, they're not going to. And that's a big problem.
Okay. Yeah, that is okay. And so, and I also heard you say, in addition to it being much more systematic and not just, all at once, we're replenishing. And can you tell us a little bit more about what that means? Because to me, it means like a 2-prong approach. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that.
So we look at the diet too. We're going to get clues of like, in their gut, do they have a ton of inflammation that we have to kind of look back at food sensitivities and things like that. Okay. But I'm also looking at diet to look at diversity. The problem with us as Americans is we tend to eat the same thing or similar things every single day. To believe it or not, in order to diversify the microbiome, you have to eat over 35 to 40 whole foods per week in order to diversify the microbiome. It's a lot of different foods.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Okay. Do you do that?
No. I try. I
know what that looks like. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it does help that I have 2 boys in my house that eat me out of house and home, so I am
True.
constantly at the grocery store trying to
That does help. Yeah.
So, I try my best
Try to
get that amount of food in. I mean, you have to be very diligent and things like
yes.
that. So we try
Good
to
job.
shoot we try to shoot at least for adults and kids 20 to 25. Now, again, I work with neurodivergent children, so
Yes.
it's a little bit more difficult for us sometimes, but
Because
we have to have a starting point. So one of the things is trying to diversify the gut and trying to replenish what they're low in. So maybe they need to eat a little bit more of a specific type of food, maybe some starches or polyphenols. Maybe they need some supplementation at that point to just help boost them up.
okay.
Like what I say is the gut is like a car that drove off into a ditch. One person isn't going to be able to push it out. You're going to need a tow truck, and the tow truck sometimes is a supplement, and it helps, so you get the car on the road, and then you can take off with the diet. It's okay. So diet plays a really big role in trying to replenish and build that person. Nutrition supports, vitamins and minerals. Unfortunately, if our gut is in dysbiotic, if there's leaky gut, if there's all these things, we're losing nutrients and we're not gaining nutrients. And you need nutrients for the gut repair.
Okay.
So I will always get a patient on a multivitamin and a mineral supplement to boost them back up and just trying to get those replenishing supplements into their system for a little bit to just make them start feeling better. Then we'll work on more of the microbiome of what other products or supplements do we need during this time. And again, the products are supposed to be a small crutch. They're not supposed to be long-term.
Okay.
What we need to remember as providers, and I try to explain this to a lot of my providers that I speak to, is that you have to be able to, if you put your patient on a digestive enzyme, which is fine because maybe they do need it, you have to be able to say, okay, after you're done with this supplement, here's a list of foods and here's things that you need to start incorporating into your diet so that this problem doesn't happen again. Because what happens a lot of the times is the patient finishes the bottle and that's it. They don't change their diet. They don't know what they're supposed to eat, bitters or anything to kind of replenish that. And then they're going to start having problems within a couple months again.
Okay. Yeah. Or they just keep taking it.
Or they just keep taking it. And the goal is not to have patients on supplements forever.
Interesting.
If they don't different story, but they need to start, learning these types of foods and how to eat properly and how to diversify their system.
Okay. I love that. Really so helpful. So just quickly, can you give us any insight in terms of how to prioritize? Because when you get that GI map report back, it's a lot, right? So we've got pathogens, digestion, inflammation, microbiome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you prioritize those different aspects in terms of where do we start?
I will always start in the gut first. So like H. pylori, digestive support, that kind of stuff. Because if somebody has H. pylori,
Okay.
We know from what we've learned is our digestive system, as our stomach acids are so acidic, it can eat through a carpet. That was something that we learned, Nutrition 101 for a lot of us. What has happened though is, especially if someone has H. pylori or digestive insufficiency, that pH is now more alkaline. And that alkaline in that gut has now trickled down to the rest of the microbiome and completely disrupted the whole entire gut.
Okay.
So one of the first things that we do need to look at is that gut in general and just making sure digestive system is working the way that it's supposed to. There's many times where I've never needed to do anything other than working on the H. pylori and digestive support to fix someone's whole entire digestive tract. I didn't need to do a kill phase. I didn't need to, give them tons of different, supplements. Again, It's little things sometimes that makes the world of difference. And when we look at our diet today, high processed food, high carbohydrates, high sugar, those are the things that are actually destroying our digestive system in its own right, where we're not even producing those enzymes because of our diet. So
Mm.
once we're able to shift and change the diet and change that perspective, the gut will take over and start doing what it's supposed to be.
Would you say that's true even as people age?
So digestive systems do decrease as people get older. I think it's over 55, 60, our digestive support starts to decline, where I'll encourage providers who have, older adults to start, you have to give them lists of foods of bitters or even milk thistle, dandelion root tea, things like little, it doesn't have to be food. It could be teas or herbs and things like that that they can make a little cocktail with. It doesn't take much to really just make a big difference in someone's microbiome. If we just take a step back, we're dietitians, we need to say, okay, if food is medicine, let's go back to a lot of those herbs and medicines that we're a long time ago, we ate dandelions. Okay. Now we look at them as they're just,
Yeah,
seeds in the garden and you're spraying them to get rid of them.
right.
They served a purpose. They served a huge
Wild.
purpose to our natural health of our
Yeah.
body, and people ate them. So when we stop doing things that our nature wanted us to, this is kind of the repercussions of it, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I remember hearing stories about my grandparents, and it was during World War One. Yeah, grandparents. I heard stories about dandelion soup,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And I thought, wow.
You could the leaves people ate as a salad. People use the root for coffee or tea.
Okay.
So yeah, they served a great purpose, and it's sad
So
that we've
cool.
come so far away from those things. Herbals are an amazing thing that has helped us for hundreds of years.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, you don't hear about that anymore, that's for sure. It's like, it's a weed, get it out, kill it. Um, okay. So, all right, so that's super helpful. Um, are you able, Greer, to walk us through a case where the GI map findings really changed the direction of care and give us a little overview on how that, kind of helps shape the protocol for the person?
Yeah, so I had a pediatric patient, one little girl comes to mind. She had horrible eczema.
Okay.
Horrible. I mean, she was covered, the poor kid. And
That's
parents sent me
awful.
yeah, parents sent me photos. She would be up all night scratching. There'd be
Oh,
blood in the crib and the sheets.
oh,
Um, and she was aware of it. She was aware that she looked different, especially on her legs. She looked different. So we did a GI map,
okay.
and she had, a lot of things were like certain things were undergrown, certain things were overgrown. Her butt just at 4 years old, it didn't look good. It was very dysbiotic.
Okay.
And so, mom was very, cautious about starting products and supplements and stuff. So we had to go low and slow. And, we all will have these parents or patients that we have to just go, okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's work together one step at a time. These are their kids. They're nervous and they're scared. So once we started getting her on some of the supplements, starting to replenish things in her body, there are certain markers that actually are very anti-inflammatory for the gut, and she was very low. So that's why she had so much inflammation, so much overgrowth and things like that, because from years prior to antibiotics, it destroyed the microbiome.
Mm.
So we started just repairing the gut. We didn't kill anything. We didn't do anything. We just started really low and slow and supporting the microbiome and pushing her into the right direction. And within a few months, her legs started becoming clearer and clearer. It got to a point where her mom sent me a photo of these little legs in shorts, and there was not a spot on them that she had,
Aw.
like, not, the other photo I had tons of scabs and marks on them, and she sent me, and they were absolutely beautiful. And she said, my daughter said, look at my beautiful legs, I can wear shorts now.
That's very
And
sweet.
I was like, oh my God, I don't even really work with eczema. And I was like,
Yeah, but it
but
just goes to show that it really is all goes back to the gut.
yeah, and we didn't do anything crazy. We really weren't doing any detoxes or anything like we were literally just using the tools and the markers of the microbiome of the GI map,
Okay.
what they were showing me of what to work on is what I worked on. And that, I'm sorry.
Do you by chance, and you probably do, can you share like anything more specific? What are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I can actually pull it up. I actually have it in one of my presentations. So, because I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay.
But yeah, so her commensals were completely tanked. All of them were low. She had no microbiome whatsoever. It was just her Bacteroides, her bifido was low, her lactobacillus was low, Akkermansia, fecali, her Bacteroides and Firmicutes, which makes up 90% of the gut, was non-existent.
Whoa.
Okay. She had a bit of overgrowth of staph and streptococcus, which we tend to see in eczema cases, which makes sense, especially if the gut itself is more alkaline. They thrive more in an alkaline pH.
Okay.
Her zonulin leaky gut was 190, so she did have
Oh.
gut and stuff. And then, I mean, her Sage was normal. I mean, she was already dairy, gluten, corn, soy free. Mom had done the whole, like, that's what, you know, she had been encouraged to do previously. So it was kind of interesting because, you know, that's sometimes some of our first things is, you know, diet, remove gluten, dairy, corn, soy kind of thing. And let's see if it gets better. And it didn't touch it. So that's why we dug deeper and did more and found that. But her gut was just,
it was destroyed. Can you tell me like maybe the top 3 things that really helped her?
We did butyrate for the fecali and Akkermansia because those 2 were really low.
Okay.
And then, believe it or not, chamomile tea. Chamomile tea does 2 different things for a kid too, and for an adult. Chamomile tea can actually help with strep and staph in the gut. And also helps with calming the nervous system and helping her to sleep better. So she can
good.
Did a store-based probiotic based on her labs because she just really needed a bit more of diversity there with the skin. And it worked so well for her.
So good. That has to feel really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of gets me a little, I don't know, a little choked up just hearing. I mean, I know what it feels like to be like mosquito bites, right? And that's nothing. And I'm a grown up, you know. I had being a kiddo with, I don't even know how horrible that would feel.
She had, just in pictures, even though you're not close up, in far away pictures, you could see all the scabs on her leg and how red and itchy they were before and after. And it was just, you know, it was discolored. It was raw. It was just, you know, I felt, you know, and these are kids. And what frustrates me is that they go to allergists. They're going to medical professionals going help. And they just go, well, I don't know. She'll grow out of it or she'll be okay. It's like, you know, they don't have to live with it 24/7 like a lot of these kids, and they're suffering.
Oh, you hit on a huge important point, because that really is, you know, kind of the messaging, not all the time, but
not all the time. But I mean, I've had families go to 3, 4, 5 allergists, all to be told they'll just do an injection and hope for the best. And it's like, well, how did we get that far? You know?
And they'll grow out of it.
We hear that a lot, especially in the autism world.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know as a parent, you know, at things that came up, I could not accept don't worry, he'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, you know, everybody's different, but there, you know, just certain things like, I don't know if that is really going to happen. Okay. So, all right, as we start to wrap up, how would you recommend finding the right info for our audience and, just to help them understanding stool tests in
Yeah.
general? Is there any resource that you'd recommend?
We have that whole entire DSL Academy, which
Okay.
is amazing. I mean, we know so many of us love self-learning and
Yes.
watching, modules and things like that. And that is a great place to start because it
Okay.
literally breaks down the test section by section. So you can learn about all the nuances that happen with each marker, why it's up, why it's down, what helps it, what the diet aspect, what supplement,
Okay.
it
Beautiful.
the DSL Academy, once you get access to it, is a gold mine of information for our providers.
And so we go to the website
Yeah,
and
go to the website. You'll have to apply to get an account, and then you'll
okay.
get access to that. Someone will help you and assist you with getting access to the DSL Academy. We don't let anyone just get into the DSL Academy.
Okay, good to know.
But yeah, if you're a provider with us,
You need to have an account.
yeah, we'll be able to get you in, and then you'll have access. We do a lot of lectures for beginners, intermediates, and advanced with Dr. Tom, and he does an amazing job helping providers take it from just the beginners to that next level.
Okay, so it is it true then if I assume you cannot access it on the other platforms such as
I think if you're Rupa Health,
or
okay. I think with Rupa Health, you still can get access to it. I don't think that if you have Rupa Health, I'm sure you could still get access to that. But yeah.
So we need to open an account, which is
it's nice to open an account directly with us because then you're going to get all the emails of all the trainings because you might not get that through Rupa Health, but you'll get that through us on our.
All right. Yeah, that's great. Really good insight. Okay. Any other recommendations moving forward? And next step, I'm sure we piqued a lot of interest today. I know this was so good. I'm just really psyched. I learned so much.
Yeah.
And it really was great. I can't thank you enough, Greer, for sharing all of your insight with us. But what's a good next step? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to have folks who want to learn more. They want to take a next step.
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
So you can definitely go to the DSL website and just apply or send an email to customer service. They could always put you in contact with one of us to chat with.
Great.
They could reach out to me as well on my platforms if they have specific questions. But yeah, just dive in. Don't be afraid to be wrong or to get, that's how we learn. And then doing it on yourself first is a great first step in how to do it.
And is the website Diagnostic Solution? Let me look. What is the website? Is it DSL?
Yeah, DSL, Diagnostic Solutions Laboratory.com.
Okay. So you can't type in DSL.com.
I think you still can. I think you could probably do that too.
So I'll put it in. Okay. So Diagnostic Solutions, plural, lab.
Yeah.
.com. And lab is singular, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. All right, guys, give me 1 second. I'm just going to put this on. Did I spell that correctly? Yes, I think I did. All right, cool. So yeah, head on over to their website, diagnosticsolutionsLab.com.
Yep.
Get yourself an account. I would definitely, in fact, I'm going to look into it myself. That training sounds great. So that really, really is intriguing. You piqued my interest for sure today. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. I hope you found this super, super valuable. I know I did. And thanks to Greer for your willingness to come on and talk about, I loved your case. That was really quite fascinating. And I'm so glad that the outcome really, really worked out for this little girl that you described with eczema.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've got lots of stories
I do.
that you can share, and maybe you'd be willing to come on again and honestly, I think case studies are really so fascinating and very, very helpful for us as clinicians.
Yeah.
So
I think it puts things in perspective, and we do that with some of our presentations as well.
Okay.
It would be helpful where we try to put case studies together and support our providers.
Okay, so another reason for our audience to go and get an account so that you are privy to their webinars and presentations and education.
Mhm.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, stay warm, I guess, depending on where you are, right? It's very cold where I am. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.